You might think that Formula One drivers are just robots designed to withstand 5 Gs of lateral force while staring at a steering wheel, but underneath those suits are some of the most unintentionally hilarious humans on the planet. From legendary world champions forgetting they are on a live global broadcast to multi-million-dollar athletes getting bullied by a gravel trap, here are the funniest moments in Formula One history. Iceman Meltdown. When you talk about the absolute peak of not caring, you have to start with the man who treated a podium like a chore and a press conference like a dental appointment. Kimi Räikkönen earned the Iceman nickname for his cold demeanor, but his career was actually a long-form comedy special. Back in 2006 at the Brazilian Grand Prix, the entire racing world was having a massive emotional breakdown because Michael Schumacher was retiring for the first time. The legendary footballer Pelé was on the grid to hand out a Lifetime Achievement Award, and every driver was lined up to show respect to the greatest to ever do it. Every driver except Kimi, who was nowhere to be found when the cameras started panning the grid for the big ceremony.
Kimi, you missed the presentation by Pelé.
Yeah.
Will you get over it?
Yeah, I was having a shoot.
Martin Brundle eventually hunted him down for an explanation, and Kimi just casually dropped that he was busy in the restroom having a bowel movement. This remains the ultimate aura move in sports history because he managed to overshadow a meeting between a football god and a racing deity just by being honest about his biology. Most athletes would give a PR answer about a technical briefing or a hydration issue, but Kimi just kept it real. This was the same guy who, during the 2012 Brazilian race, took a wrong turn off the track and tried to use an old service road he remembered from years prior, only to find out the organizers had welded the gate shut since his last visit. He basically treated Interlagos like a local grocery store parking lot where he knew a shortcut. The Chaos Twins. If Kimi is the king of silence, the modern era has been defined by the chaotic energy of Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. These two are basically the personification of pure dopamine in a paddock that is usually far too serious for its own good. Before they were rivals or teammates, they were just two guys trying to out-meme each other at every opportunity. The peak of this was Silverstone in 2022 when they were supposed to be doing a serious promotional event for the fans using inflatable space hoppers. You have two of the most talented drivers in the world, and they are reduced to bouncing around on rubber balls like children at a birthday party, which was already funny enough until the competitive instinct kicked in.
It's a no joke.
Lando Norris has stacked it down the main straight. Here comes Ricciardo. It's going to be
Daniel managed to launch his hopper directly into Lando's face with the precision of a heat-seeking missile, leading to one of the most viral crashes in British racing history. It captures the McLaren era perfectly where the vibes were high, even if the points were sometimes low. This friendship eventually led to the infamous incident at the 2023 Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando finally got himself back on the podium and decided to do his signature champagne celebration, where he slams the bottle on the ground to get the bubbles flowing. The problem was, he did it right next to Max Verstappen's unique porcelain trophy, which cost about $40,000 and took months to handcrafted.
Slamming the champagne bottle onto the podium stand. A harmless tradition, huh? Not this time. The impact from the slam made Verstappen's $40,000 porcelain trophy wobble and fall off the podium, breaking into countless pieces.
The sight of that expensive trophy wobbling and then shattering into 1,000 pieces while Lando tried to hide his face was absolute cinema. It was the perfect contrast between a historic, prestigious ceremony and a guy who just wanted to make a big splash. It is that kind of relatability that keeps fans coming back. Lando does not just break trophies though, he also treats the team radio like he is auditioning for a talent show. During a practice session in Austin, he decided the engineers needed to hear him singing about moving up and down and side to side like a roller coaster, proving that even at 200 miles per hour, some people just cannot stop being the main character.
And radio check, please.
I'm moving up and down, side to side like a roller coaster.
The Stroll Special. While some drivers are funny because they try to be, Lance Stroll has mastered the art of being funny because the universe seems to conspire against him in the weirdest ways. He is often the target of a lot of internet hate because of his father owning the team, but you have to admit the guy provides incredible content for the highlight reels. The most famous example happened in Monaco in 2021. Monaco is the crown jewel of the calendar, and the broadcasting is usually handled by a local crew rather than the standard F1 team. During a high-stakes battle between Sebastian Vettel and Pierre Gasly, where they were wheel-to-wheel coming out of the pits, the director made a choice that will live in infamy.
Lewis Hamilton was waiting for any chance to capitalize on the fight ahead. It was the kind of actions fans live for: fast, on the edge, and full of skill. The cameras should have been glued to this drama, but in a moment of truly inexplicable genius, the broadcast cut away to...
What has happened? We need to know who's going to come out in front as we see Lance Stroll hitting the barrier and going...
Just as the tension reached a boiling point, the feed cut away to a random replay of Lance Stroll aggressively hopping over a curb. It became an instant meme because it was so poorly timed that it felt like a glitch in the simulation. Fans started inserting the 18 Stroll clip into every major sporting event or movie climax. But Lance saved his best work for the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix. During the formation lap, which is basically the warm-up where you are supposed to just drive slowly and get the tires ready, he managed to spin out and tap the wall. He could have easily reversed back onto the track, but he decided to take a shortcut through the gravel trap instead. He immediately got beached in the deep gravel, ending his race before it even started. Seeing a professional driver get stuck in the sand during a parade lap while the commentators lose their minds is a special kind of comedy. It was a complete disaster that defied human logic, but it was also a reminder that even the elite can have a total brain fade when the pressure is on. Champion problems. Even 7-time world champions are not immune to the occasional sitcom moment. Lewis Hamilton is a global superstar, a fashion icon, and arguably the greatest to ever do it. But that doesn't mean everyone knows who he is. You would think that walking into the paddock of a race you have won multiple times would be easy. But a security guard in Australia once proved that nobody is above the rules. Despite being the most famous person in the building, Lewis found himself getting blocked by a guard who was very dedicated to checking passes.
Where's his pass to get through Bernie's?
The sight of the championship leader just standing there waiting for permission to enter his own workspace is pure comedy. But Lewis also holds the record for the weirdest race start in history. During the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix, a chaotic first lap led to a red flag. By the time they were ready to restart, the track had dried out, and every single driver decided to dive into the pits for different tires at the last second. Every driver except Lewis. This resulted in a visual that looked like a video game glitching out.
His sight alone on the grid was surreal. It almost felt like a glitch.
Only the race leader is the only driver who's not come into the pit lane to change tyres.
Hamilton was the only car on the entire starting grid when the lights went out. He basically had a private track day for one lap before realizing he made a massive tactical error and had to pit anyway. He went from first to last in about 60 seconds, proving that even the best strategists in the world can occasionally cook up a total disaster. He eventually clawed his way back to a podium, but that image of a single Mercedes sitting alone on the grid remains one of the funniest visuals in the history of the sport. The Alonso experience. If there is one person who has turned being a driver into a performance art piece, it is Fernando Alonso. The Spaniard has been in the sport so long that he has run out of things to prove. So, he has transitioned into being the paddock's ultimate troll. He is the guy who will offer tactical advice to his teammates while driving at 200 miles per hour, or use the giant trackside screens to watch the race while he is actually in it. One of his most iconic moments happened during qualifying in Hungary in 2009 when the timing system completely crashed.
I don't know. Which time did it? 22.5. 21.5. 22.5. Me 21.5. But I don't know in which position I am.
The drivers were all parked in the pit lane asking each other what their lap times were because nobody knew who was on pole. Fernando was just standing there looking confused until someone told him he was the fastest, at which point he just shrugged and accepted his fate. But his peak humor came in 2015, when his McLaren was so unreliable it was basically a glorified lawnmower. After his car broke down during qualifying in Brazil, he did not storm off in a rage. Instead, he found a trackside camera operator, stole a folding chair, and decided to work on his tan while the rest of the field was still racing.
In 2015, during qualifying, Fernando's car broke down early on, but instead of getting angry, he grabbed a deck chair, sat by the track, and relaxed, like he was sunbathing.
The image of a world champion sunbathing in his race suit while his rivals zoomed past him became an instant classic. He even leaned into it the following year by pretending to operate one of the trackside cameras after another breakdown, though his camera work was about as good as his engine was at the time. Alonso knows exactly how to weaponize his frustration to make the fans laugh, and it is why he remains one of the most beloved figures on the grid, despite his legendary temper. Perez and the pranks. Sergio Perez is usually seen as the steady, reliable teammate, but he has a sneaky sense of humor that catches people off guard. Back in 2011, when he was a rookie, he decided to test his engineer's heart rate during the Japanese Grand Prix. He had put in a brilliant drive and was holding on to a points finish, but as he approached the final lap, he jumped on the radio with a voice full of panic.
He radioed his team.
I look forward, I look forward. Don't look forward. Look forward. Look forward.
Go to the finish line, keep pushing. Go to the line, keep pushing.
He told the team he was losing power and could not make it to the line, which usually causes a total meltdown in the garage. Then, a few seconds later, he just laughed and told them he was joking. It takes a certain level of confidence to troll your boss during your debut season. That mischievous energy has stayed with him, especially in the Red Bull era where he is constantly subjected to weird marketing challenges with Max Verstappen. Whether they are slapping each other with tortillas or trying to navigate a balloon-popping course in the middle of a forest, Perez usually ends up being the one to find the loophole or cause the most mischief. Jaguar and the donkey. One of the deepest cuts in F1 comedy history involves the Jaguar team back in 2004. They were struggling both on and off the track, and they decided the best way to fix their morale was to adopt an inflatable donkey as their official mascot. This was not just a small toy. They treated this donkey like a vital member of the team.
More specifically, an inflatable donkey inspired by the Shrek character.
Hey, I'm the new mascot, so let's really try and
here's the best part, this donkey wasn't just for decoration, it got involved. As a driver? Why not? As an engineer, plotting strategies for the team. Whatever the role, the donkey was ready for it.
The donkey had its own headset, its own pass, and it was often seen sitting on the pit wall during practice sessions. It was a bizarre, surreal bit of humor that perfectly captured the weirdness of the mid-2000s paddock. It was the same year they lost a $300,000 diamond on the streets of Monaco after a crash, so the donkey was probably the only thing keeping them sane. Formula One might be a serious business involving billions of dollars, but as long as you have drivers having bathroom emergencies and inflatable donkeys in the pits, it will always be the fastest comedy show on earth.